Next up, we have Carla. Carla Spataro is the director of the MFA in Creative Writing program here at Rosemont. She holds a bachelor's in applied arts and music from Central Michigan University, a master of music from Michigan State University, and an MFA in creative writing from Rosemont College. Carla is also the editorial director and co-publisher of Philadelphia Stories Magazine and PS Books. She is a Pennsylvania Council on the Arts Fellowship winner for fiction, and her short stories can be read in Iron Horse Literary Review, Wind River Review, Painted Bride Quarterly, and more. Most recently, Carla was selected as an honorable mention in the Coastal Bend Wellness Prize and named a finalist for the Larry Brown Short Story Award issue of Pithead Chapel. Please welcome Carla.
I'm going to read half the story because it's too long to read the whole thing. So if you want to read the whole thing, you can go on the Pithead Chapel website and read it. So here it is, The Rush of Water. Dolores drums her fingers on the steering wheel as she sits in her car. The early morning sun bakes her skin through the filter of the windshield. In other cars, other drivers and passengers are waiting their turn just like she is. Welcome to Canada, the sign up ahead reads. Bienvenue. To her laughter, both the American and Canadian falls. Rising columns of thunder and mist reach for the sky. To her right, the churning waters of the Niagara River course north and east to Lake Ontario. She imagines she can feel the vibrations of the falls as they pound against the rocks below. She inches her car closer to the customs booth. It won't be long now, she thinks, as she surveys the interior of the car for any signs that might give her away. The back seat is empty, except for some discarded fast food bags and Coke cans. Her purse is on the seat beside her. The gun she's taken from Charlie is wrapped in her underwear and buried in her suitcase, which is stowed safely in the trunk. Outside Buffalo, she turned the radio to CBC2 because the DJ she'd been listening to was droning on and on about Columbine, the carnage, the mayhem. She's had enough of men's voices for now. At first, the classical music soothed her jangled nerves, but now the music is harsh and jarring. The rite of spring, the announcer says. It sounds more like the pounding on the gates of hell. The throbbing drum beats keep time with the blinking brake lights of the cars in front of her. Red, 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 red. Dolores switches off the radio and closes her eyes, but the vision comes anyway, as it has several times since she left Kansas City. Splotches of bright crimson splash against the stark white porcelain, then cool relief as the water comes and washes it all away. A car horn blares behind her and she looks up. The vision fades and she sees the customs officer waving her on. She smiles at him, blinking in the sunlight as she rolls down her window. Her teeth feel sticky, her mouth dry. Unlike the last time, she's had no time to plan. You all right there, miss? The customs officer asks. Fine, Dolores says. I guess I was just daydreaming. The officer nods to her. Beautiful day for it, isn't it? Yes, she says, studying him sitting in his booth, young and smooth, fresh. Unlike the American officers, he isn't wearing a gun. Dolores thinks he looks clean, untainted, but she knows this can't be true. Everyone is tainted by something. She touches a fading bruise at the corner of her mouth. Where are you from? He asks. New York City, she lies. She takes a breath, looks at the officer directly in the eye, and smiles again. What's your destination? Niagara Falls. She sits up a little straighter. Maybe she will blend in here, where there are so many people from so many different places. She wasn't sure where to go. For days she'd found herself driving east, then north, not knowing why, just knowing that when she found the place that felt right, she would stop. That had worked the last time. What's the planned length of your stay, he says. A few days. Your name? She runs her hands through her hair, hoping she looks relaxed, not like a fugitive with a blood-splattered clothes and a gun in her trunk. Sunny. Sunny Santangelo. Welcome to Canada, Miss Santangelo. Have a good day. Dolores pulls away from the customs booth, twisting to the left so she can see the falls. She hasn't been to Niagara since her childhood. Charlie's always talked about taking her, but like so many things with Charlie, he just never delivered. Now she's here on her own again, no longer Dolores Hobbs or Betty Ann Tucker, but Sunny Santangelo. That mess with Charlie Hobbs all behind her. As Dolores nears the end of the bridge, she turns left onto the Niagara Parkway so she can get a clear view of the water. It's still early, but hundreds of tourists crowd the walkways and railings along the parkway. Families cluster together in shiny blue and yellow rain ponchos wet with mist from the falls. The right side of the road is covered with flower beds bursting with the flushed and buttery hues of spring. Dolores rolls down her window, lets the mist fill the car as she nears a sign that reads Table Rock Complex. She wants to get out of the car, let the mist spill over her, but she's decided not to. There will be time enough later. What she needs to do now is find a hotel room. She's been traveling for days, and she's tired. She makes her right off the parkway and eventually finds herself driving down Lundy's Lane, a benign strip of motels and restaurants. She settles on the Bonaventure Inn, particularly because she likes the name, but mostly because it's right next to the liquor store. She registers for the room, writing the name Sunny Santangelo for the first time and admiring the femininity of the swirling S's, the wink of the apostrophe. Smiling to herself, she pays for 3 days in advance with cash, so the clerk won't ask for a credit card. Then she walks across the parking lot to the liquor store where she buys a liter of Crown Royal instead of her usual. Why not splurge? She should celebrate. Before unloading the car, Dolores pops into the drugstore on the other side of the parking lot with the whiskey under her arm. She's thinking a new hair color might be in order, maybe some new lipstick. At the counter, she piles toothpaste, shampoo, deodorant, butternut blonde number 80, and cherry luscious red lipstick in front of the sales clerk. "This'll look good on you," the sales clerk says, lifting the box of dye into the shopping bag. "You think so?" Dolores asks. "I just thought it would be fun to do something different." The girl nods. "Don't worry, it'll be great. That'll be $27.50, 40% discount for US. Dolores digs in her purse and hands the girl US currency. She's going to have to exchange her money later, she thinks, absorb some Canadian culture, learn the lingo. She struggles with her suitcases, her purse, the whiskey, and the shopping bag. She manages to drag it all down the hall to her room and slips the key in the lock. The room is spare but clean, the television bolted to the dresser, the remote wired to the nightstand next to the bed. In the corner of the room, a gas fireplace is sealed behind a large rectangle of glass. Dolores walks over and flips the switch, then watches as the flames lick the edges of the glass. First orange, then red, then blue. Blue, like the flash from a revolver in the dark, she thinks. Dolores fills a plastic cup from the bathroom with whiskey. "Here's to you, Charlie Hobbs," she says, raising the cup to the fireplace. "But mostly, here's to Sunny." Dolores drains the rest of her drink, refills her cup, then moves to the bathroom to dye her hair. She puts on the plastic gloves included with the kit and smears the dye all over her head, making sure it reaches all the way down to the roots. The smell of ammonia permeates the room, and she sits on the edge of the tub and sips her drink. Later, she will go for a walk down by the falls, see the colored lights dancing in the darkness, feel the mist on her skin, imagine the rush of water as it plunges over the edge of the falls and crushes the rocks below. It will all be so beautiful. Dolores strips off her clothes and decides to get into the shower and takes off the hair dye. The steam fills the bathroom and she steps under the spray. As she watches the rust-colored pools and rivulets course at her feet, it occurs to her that maybe Charlie's only been stunned. Maybe right now he's stumbling around the house, pissed as hell that she isn't there to pick up the mess or wipe the blood off his favorite bowling trophy. That would be funny, she thinks, to see him like that. Maybe he wouldn't even remember what happened, like one of those stupid shows where the person gets amnesia from a whack on the head. Dolores falls asleep on the scratchy hotel bedspread with a plastic cup half filled with whiskey in her hand and a travel brochure tucked under her chin. She doesn't wake up until early in the evening. Her sleep has been deep and dreamless and she wakes hungry. After dressing, she decides to go for a drive, see the falls, get something to eat. Before she leaves the room, she takes Charlie's gun, still wrapped in a pair of her underwear, and shoves it in her purse. Outside, the air is cool, and she pulls her coat around her tightly as she slides behind the wheel of her car. She makes her way down Lundy's Lane towards Clifton Hill, following the signs directing her to the falls. The gaudy lights of the tourist attractions amuse and repulse her at the same time. There are so many people, like downtown Kansas City at lunchtime, all of them pushing and laughing. She can hear music blaring from loudspeakers through the closed windows of her car. She licks her lips and turns right at the falls. The colors are spectacular, just as she imagined they would be. The thunder of the water rumbles above the din of the crowd, and she wants to stop, to reach her hand down into the rushing stream, to be so close she can feel its weight, but there are just too many people. She decides to see where the road will take her, remembering from the brochure that the parkway stretches east and west along the length of the Niagara River. Dolores heads west through Chippewa toward Lake Erie. Once she passes an old power plant, the river quiets and she marvels at the beautiful mansions facing the water. Docked boats rock gently as she passes by, and she wonders what kinds of people. what kinds of men live in these elaborate homes. It seems she is alone on the road. She wonders why more people aren't out for a drive. The scenery is so beautiful. The dark sky is heavy with stars, like her last night in Alabama, she thinks, like so many nights in Kansas. Overland Park had certainly been a step up from Tuscaloosa, where she'd lived in a rickety double-wide with Mickey, her husband before Charlie, but Overland Park was nothing compared to what she sees now. She hasn't thought about Mickey for some time. Mickey had been worse than Charlie. He never had a job, would steal money out of her purse for beer. In the end, like Charlie, he hadn't left her any choices. Maybe a Canadian man would be different. Not far from Fort Erie, Dolores spots a small bar with a miniature lighthouse out front. The sign advertises the best ribs in Niagara. Still a little unsure of herself, she wants to try some things out, see what it feels like to be sunny Sant'Angelo. Dolores finds a parking spot in back. She lingers for a moment at the channel that runs alongside the bar and counts the number of docked boats before walking inside. Boat oars and old life preservers hang on the rough-hewn barn paneling covering the walls. Couples hunch over their dinners in corner booths and at the bar. Dolores smiles. No one even looks up when she enters the room, and she's glad for the moment to remain inconspicuous. She stands in the doorway and scans the bar for a strategically placed empty seat. At the end of the bar, she sees a man sitting alone. It's hard for her to tell if he'll be worth any effort, but his gestures are grand, and he seems to be engaging the other patrons in conversation. She flashes him a smile as she slides onto the stool next to him, imagining that this is something someone named Sonny would do.